Welcome to the Neutral Corner for the week of July 4th. I'm Michael Montero, your host. Quick shout out to Joe Chavez at Sombra Apparel for the cool shirt. These guys make a lot of great shirts. They got short sleeve, long sleeve, no sleeve, all of it. So check them out at sombraapparel.com. Let's get into the ring walk. All right, today's question comes via Twitter from Rob Palmer, and he asks, besides the obvious, putting fighters in their hometowns, what could U.S. promoters do to fill up arenas like they do in Europe? Let's start with what they do over in Europe and in Latin America, Asia. And I'll just think of some recent examples like the Frotch Groves rematch at the O2 Arena, which that arena's held several big crowds in recent years, right? Any Klitschko fight, pretty much, in Germany for the last decade has been in front of a huge crowd. Martinez and Murray down in Argentina a couple years ago, that had a huge crowd. The common theme I see with a lot of these big crowds is they're in soccer stadiums, or what most of the world would call football stadiums, what us here in America would call soccer stadiums. Our equivalent to that is baseball stadiums and American football stadiums, be they professional football, the NFL, or college football. A lot of those stadiums can hold 80, 100,000 people. So, and there have been fights recently in some of those venues, right? A couple that come to mind are Pacquiao's fights against Margarito and Clottey were at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium in Texas, and those did massive crowds. Recently, Canelo Alvarez fought at a baseball stadium in Houston. That was a big crowd. So when they've done big fights here at these big stadiums, it's gone well. But the thing is, there seems to be a culture difference in American boxing versus other countries around the world, where American fighters and fighters that come to America to make it, they're not necessarily coming here to fight for bigger crowds, they're coming here to fight for bigger money, right? And that means fighting in casinos. I'll use Floyd Mayweather as an example because he's the biggest example, but Floyd has pretty much fought the last decade or so at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. And that venue is not going to seat more than, I believe it's about 15,000. Now, obviously, if Floyd fought anywhere else, let's take the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, for example. If he fought Canelo Alvarez there, that easily would have done 100,000 people there. If he would have fought, even his fights against Marcos Maidana, he could have did that down the street here at Dodgers Stadium, the baseball stadium here. That would have done a huge crowd. But the fighters here in America tend to fight at casinos because you get the site fee and you can gouge ticket prices. I'll use an example of a fighter here in America that's going against that grain, Terrence Crawford, who twice has turned down money to fight at a casino and instead fought in his hometown in Nebraska. Now, even though he had a bigger crowd, he got less money. What does that tell you? That tells you that at the venue in Omaha, they were charging less for tickets and they weren't getting a site fee. If he would have went to a casino, the ticket prices would have been a lot more and it would have been a smaller crowd, but it would have generated more money. So Crawford is one of the rare exceptions here in America that's taken less money to fight in front of a bigger, more passionate crowd. I just think that that's something that fighters from the UK, from Germany, from parts of Asia, all over Latin America, seem to be more willing to do than our American stars. We could go overseas and look at somebody like Carl Frotch, who years ago was fighting, he was almost unknown over there in the UK. His fights weren't being televised, he was fighting in front of small crowds, so he traveled the globe, right? He fought all over. He fought our best here in America. He fought Kessler in his home country. And over the years, he started to build up his name. He got Lucia Bute to go over there. He beat him, an emphatic knockout victory, took that O in front of his hometown fans. And then he got rematches with, he got a rematch with Kessler. He fought Groves. And then by the time they did the rematch with Groves, Frotch was such a brand and there was such a demand for that rematch, for that fight, that they did a massive, massive crowd. But he started local, he started small, he built it up. I think if the fighters themselves were willing to do that here in America, we could get to those big fights like they have over in Europe. Now, take Alabama. There's not really a big professional sports team there, but college football is huge down there. Who's to say one day Deontay Wilder couldn't headline a card, a heavyweight title fight at the college football stadium down there in Alabama? That could do a massive crowd. And you can say the same thing for Terrence Crawford in Nebraska, where college football is like a religion. So, long-winded answer, Rob Palmer, but that was a great question and one that really doesn't have an easy answer. Let me know what you guys think. Comment below. What am I missing here? Because I feel like I'm missing a piece of this. Or is there anything that you disagree with? Comment below, let me know. But let's get into the fights. Okay, so last Saturday was a really special day. It wasn't just HBO Boxing's 1,000th fight celebration, which is a really, really amazing achievement in and of itself. But for Tiffany and myself, the California State Athletic Commission was having a special media day event. And Jack Reese, one of the best referees in the business, he's a friend of ours, and he invited us to come out there. And I just want to give a quick thank you to Jack and to Andy Foster, the executive officer at the CSAC, and everybody at the commission. These guys were awesome. Tiffany and I got to the StubHub Center about 11 o'clock a.m. and they took us all around. They showed us their drug testing protocol, their medical protocol, including a walkthrough they do to prepare with the paramedics in the event that they need to take somebody to the hospital. And it just so happened that happened Saturday night. We got to go into the locker rooms and see the refs give the fighters their instructions. And we even got to score a couple fights ringside. We shadowed the judges during the untelevised undercard. And we scored a few fights. I scored a 4-rounder, a 6-rounder, an 8-rounder. And just in case you're wondering, my scores exactly matched all 3 official judges' scores. So obviously I must know something about what I'm talking about here. It was just a really, really cool event. And on top of all of that, we got to sit in the red corner with Bradley's people. So it was just an amazing, fun experience for Tiffany and I. We were already having a great day, and then it just so happened to be HBO's 1,000th fight, and that was kind of a momentous occasion, and we were just happy to be there for that. And then the main event turned out to be a really, really good fight. But let's talk about the co-feature. Oscar Valdez, who was a featherweight prospect, he improved to 16-0 with a good, solid victory over the taller, rangier Ruben Tamayo. Even though Valdez was dropped in the first round, it was kind of a flash knockdown. He was off balance. He responded very, very well to that knockdown. He didn't panic. He got right back into his rhythm. I thought he looked pretty good. I liked the angles he gave. He would get off with combinations and immediately spin Tamayo. His footwork was very, very impressive to me. You could see the amateur pedigree. He was a very, very decorated Mexican amateur. Even though he was born in the United States, he moved down to Mexico to live with his dad as a teenager and fought for their amateur team down there. He swelled up Tamayo's, I want to say right eye, don't quote me, might have been the left eye, I can't think right now. But once he saw that eye swelling, he kept going at it, kept working the eye. If I had to think of something negative to say about Valdez, he looks a little undersized to me. I think that there are featherweights, a lot of good featherweights that are a little taller and longer that he might have trouble getting inside on. Guys that have skills and have a jab. I mean, of course, Lomachenko, you know, he's the man in the division, but there's so many others. Featherweight is probably the most stacked division in boxing, in my opinion. And Valdez is going to have to really improve his offense because I felt some of it was telegraphed, his offense, and it was very, very one-dimensional. I shouldn't say one-dimensional. It wasn't very diversified. He could diversify his combinations. I think he could go downstairs more. I think he could feint more. I think he could throw more hooks. It was a lot of 1-2s. 1-2s, 1-1-2s, and then, spinning his opponent, which in the amateurs, man, you can win medals that way. But in the pro ranks, you're gonna have to diversify that attack, especially if you're facing somebody equally as skilled as you are. But nonetheless, he gets the win and improves to 16-0. And Tamayo, with that bad eye, the commission folks told us that they took him to the hospital after the fight, standard protocol. Everything was okay, but it's a pretty good injury. He'll be out of the ring for a while. I thought he looked pretty good in there, and he did his job. He gave Valdez some rounds and gave him some trouble a few times. So pretty good performance from him. So let's talk about the main event. And Timothy Bradley. Look, in my opinion, he's knocking on the door of Canastota in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. He's right there. And this fight was another time that he took an undefeated contender's O. Jessie Vargas was undefeated coming into this fight, and you got the feeling that the promotion, the promoter Top Rank and the network HBO and the folks involved wouldn't have minded if Vargas won this fight. He's very, very marketable, Mexican-American. It would have been a perfect comeback opponent for Pacquiao next year. But Bradley, man, this guy, he's never had a lot of punching power. He's never been a very, very athletic guy. He's just in amazing condition physically, and he's got crazy mental toughness and focus. He's just so determined. And throughout this fight, through the first 2/3 of the fight, I thought that Bradley was pushing Vargas back. He was doing the better work. When you looked at the punch numbers, they were fairly even, and Vargas actually did better with the jab, but Bradley landed the harder shots, and he, especially with the body work. And when he punched Vargas, he moved him. He physically just seemed to push and maul Vargas around. And Vargas was supposed to be the younger, fresher guy. Taller, bigger, longer fighter. And I just thought Bradley had him on the back foot. Now things got interesting toward the end of the fight. I thought that Vargas finally started to kind of find his rhythm in the championship rounds. And I had the fight scored 8-3 for Bradley going into the final round when Vargas finally sat down on the punch, planted his ass, and went for it and nailed Bradley hard, right on the chin. The punch didn't land here or here, it landed at the tip of the chin, man. In the final 20 seconds or so of that 12th round, and Bradley somehow took that shot. I know Vargas doesn't hit with much power, but that punch he hit Bradley with would drop most welterweights, especially at the end of a tough physical fight like they had just had. But again, I talk about Bradley's conditioning. He's a serious gym rat. He's a consummate professional. He always comes into the ring in outstanding shape. And he's just a tough son of a gun, man. He obviously got pushed back. He was a little out of it, but I thought he recovered very, very quickly, very well. And Vargas tried to follow up in the closing seconds. Bradley actually slipped a punch, he blocked a punch, and then he grabbed Vasquez. Now, referee Pat Russell thought he heard the bell when he heard the 10-second clap. He waved the fight as being over. We were ringside, like I said, in Bradley's corner. We didn't know what the hell happened. We thought the fight had been stopped. So it was kind of pandemonium ringside. And everybody immediately jumped in the ring. Both corners, the commission people, the ring doctors, the camera crew, everybody jumped into the ring, right? So we were thinking, oh my God, the fight was stopped. Bradley wasn't in that bad a shape. But very, very quickly, it was actually Tim Bradley's wife, Monica, came up to us and said, no, the fight wasn't stopped. Bradley, is gonna win, blah, blah, blah. They announced the decision, and a lot of fans were booing, especially when Max Kellerman at HBO interviewed Pat Russell. Look, Pat made an honest mistake. I can tell you, I was ringside when Vargas landed that shot on Bradley. It got loud. We didn't hear the final bell or the clap or any of it. We couldn't hear anything. It got really, really loud. So sometimes these things happen. I've seen it happen a lot, actually. I've seen rounds be ended early. I've seen rounds go upwards of a minute long. I've seen 4-minute rounds before. So this is certainly not some unprecedented incident. After the fight, we asked Pat. I asked him directly because I thought some of you out there might want to know this. In theory, could he have restarted the final 10 seconds of that fight? And he said yes, per the commission rules, you could do that. So basically there were two options for him after all that madness ensued. It was clear everybody out of the ring, all the people I told you about that had been in the ring, get both fighters ready again, check their gloves, mouthpieces and everything, ding, 10 more seconds. Which obviously by then Bradley was totally fine. It wouldn't have made any difference. Or just go with the decision to end the fight prematurely. And so that's what they did. So I know there's a little bit of controversy with this one, but in a strange way, it gives Jessie Vargas a way to save face. Because now he gets to go back to his fans and say, look, man, I had him. One more shot, he was out of there. Give me a rematch. And it was a good fight. Who wouldn't want to see a rematch? So Jessie Vargas saves face in his first professional loss. Timothy Bradley takes another undefeated fighter's O, and in my opinion, marches even closer to that Hall of Fame ticket that him and his wife and now manager Monica have said they want to get. That's their biggest goal.